On today's show, the Hawks are 6-6, and I am joined for part one of a two-part episode with my friend Tyler Jones, diving in on all things Hawks. We have all of what you would expect from the conversation, from top-level observations to player observations to how the schedule has gone so far to what's to come, and much more, and all of that is on the way.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1591 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Rowland, coming to you on a Sunday evening into Monday, and today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use promo code LockedOnNBA when you get there for a first deposit match up to $100. And also, I want to take the top of the podcast to make us your first listen each and every day, and check us out anywhere you get your podcasts, places like Apple and Spotify on the audio side, as well as YouTube on the video side. And I am joined on today's program by my friend Tyler Jones, easily the most requested guest I get on this podcast. And he's not been on for a couple of weeks now, so it's a good time to have Tyler back on the show. This is part one of two, so if you want to stick around after part one, I definitely would recommend that. Part two should be in your feeds right away, so don't delay, and go ahead and click on over to part two as well. But we covered the whole gamut, as you might expect, from the Hawks' first 12 games of the season. And without any further delay, here's myself and Tyler talking all things Hawks. I am joined once again by perennial fan favorite Tyler Jones. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend. How are you?
Welcome back, Desmond Ridder as QB1 for the Atlanta Falcons.
I wasn't sure where we're going. Brad? I wasn't sure where we're going with the intro today. The Falcons are certainly a topic. I was glad we're recording this podcast on Sunday. I was very glad they didn't play today. It was freeing for me to not have to watch the Falcons play football today, so I enjoyed that part of the day. Anyway,
well, I mean, Brady's my son Otani, so it all evens out.
That would be nice for everybody involved. With that out of the way, we can discuss your 6-6 Atlanta Hawks through 12 games. I asked you to come on a few days ago before the loss on Friday, so we didn't know what that was going to be like. I guess I'll start broad here, Tyler. I know in the moment we all get a little frustrated. It is what it is. Zooming out a little bit, I know they're 6-6. How are you taking this start? Because I feel like I'm seeing. This is me. This is my timeline. It's curated for me. I get that, and my mentions are probably a little bit unique in some ways. But I feel like people are pretty angsty about a 6-6 start, and I wonder how you feel about it.
No, I think it's been a pretty tough schedule. I don't know what it based on, the SOS score or whatever, but it's felt like the Hawks haven't had a break of good teams. Like, they've constantly gone up against teams in particular that are defensively designed to take away some stuff for the Hawks. Like, they've gone up against like the Knicks, the Sixers with their big, rangy, athletic centers that will take away the lob from Capella. And I feel like that's kind of put a wrench into things, especially with the starters. But I mean, overall to me, like, the most important thing is the breakout that Jalen Johnson is having. I mean, I'm not sure if anything else matters at the moment more than like what he's doing, because the other guys, like, I'm not worried about Trey, and I'm really not worried about the centers, even though neither Capella or Okongwu, based on EPM, have actually played that well to start this season. But both of them have proven track records. I think they're going to turn it around. It is a new scheme, but overall, like, you wish the record was better, but it's not like they're playing poorly. Like, granted, they played poorly against the Sixers. I thought that was, particularly in the second half after, Hunter lost his mind. After that, like, I think that was probably the worst stretch of basketball they've played on the season, just on both ends. But overall, like, I mean, you wish the record was better, but I feel like they're close to breaking out. Just if certain things can start going their way.
Yeah, I mean, the schedule, it's not been impossible, but they've only lost to one bad basketball team, and it was the season opener on the road. They lost to Miami, and that was probably a bad team the way it was constructed that night without Jimmy. but that's Miami. Miami just does stuff like that. That's what I mean. I was coming around to that. I'm just saying I was coming around to that. It's still the Heat, so it's not like it's not the same kind of bad team. Like they lost to Charlotte. They didn't play great that first night. They didn't shoot well. But like their other losses, they lost to Oklahoma City on the road. They lost to the Knicks twice by a combined 8 points. And they lost to Philadelphia in a game where
but the thing is, losing to the Knicks, it's like losing twice.
I was going to say that actually.
You lose twice to the Knicks at home, so you lost 4 times on the season.
It was not great.
Brad, you have to understand, and like, if you don't live in Atlanta or you don't understand, there are a lot of New Yorkers here, and when the Knicks come to Atlanta, it is their Super Bowl. It's their Super Bowl, so you're going to get their best effort, and plus they want to beat Trae Young and humiliate him every chance they can. So I thought it was really fun. The entire game, both games, I thought it was really funny that they're high pressing Trae Young every time he has the ball, like putting 2 on the ball at Trae Young
blitz
at all times. They're like,
yes, we
don't care, Trae, you're not scoring. We're just gonna because we know that makes you angry. And so we're going to tilt you. It doesn't matter that the Hawks are scoring like 1.8 points per possession in the half court or whatever it was. But like, we don't care. As long as Trae's got like 18 points, he's trash. He's trash. We get parade to the world that Trae's trash and everybody's happy. And we win these games by 3 points when we got like 25 offensive rebounds. So
yeah,
I don't know.
I was going to ask you actually, because like, look, it's anecdotal, but man, it felt like the Hawks had just lost by 40 to
it's the Super Bowl,
to the Spurs that night. Because granted, when the Hawks spoiler alert for everybody, when the Hawks lose, my mentions are pretty ugly for about an hour or two after the game, almost every time. It doesn't matter what happens, so it's fine. I get that. I'm used to it. It felt like that game in particular on Wednesday, it was like 3x what it normally is. I'm like, what's going on here? So maybe that's just it. Maybe it's just the Knicks.
It's a Super Bowl. It's a Super Bowl. It's the Knicks Super Bowl, and the Hawks lost it. And so the Hawks fans who want to celebrate now, they got to eat it. Like we're bad now. So I don't know.
No,
it's always funny.
No, it's good context. I mean, the schedule is what it is, and Tuesday's a pretty big one. They got to honestly, if they want to have any chance to win the season tournament, they got to win on Tuesday, which we can talk about at the end of the podcast if you want to against Indiana. But the schedule has not been super duper friendly. They've also had some weird travel, and no one cares about that. I get fans don't care about that, but the team will tell you. I mean, if you talk to these guys, not necessarily the players, but people around the team, like they'll be able to point to, hey, this is a terrible spot for us. This is a terrible spot for us. And usually that is reflected on the court on some level. Today's show is brought to you by PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is the largest DFS platform in North America and also the most easy and exciting way to play DFS. At PrizePicks, you pick 2 6 players, choose whether actually have more or less than a certain number of points, rebounds, assists, etc. Wins 25 times the money on your entries. And with basketball season here, you're not going to pick up combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League, which is a league created specially to have combo projections that include 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. They have a huge selection of sports and stat types not offered anywhere else at PrizePicks, and they're offered projections on the NFL, NBA, NHL, PGA, and many more. And they also have a reboot policy. PrizePicks is the only DFS platform with an injury insurance policy of any kind. I've also really enjoyed checking out PrizePicks all year long. I'm digging there all the time during NFL season, NBA season, etc. I'm there in college basketball. It's all there for you at PrizePicks. And on the whole, the experience is fantastic and fun, and I highly recommend everyone checking it out right now. In fact, when you get there, PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA is the place to go. Use promo code LockedOnNBA for a first-time deposit match up to $100. One more time, that is PrizePicks.com/LockedOnNBA, and use that promo code LockedOnNBA. Check out daily fantasy sports made easy with PrizePicks. You mentioned Jalen, so I was going to ask you about Jalen anyway. Let's go to Jalen now. I don't think Jalen is going to shoot 44% from 3, but everything else, it's been really outstanding so far. And we've talked about Jalen in a very positive manner. I love that draft pick. He is playing extremely well on the whole. And that does not mean that he's perfect. I think people have maybe just decided that he can't have any flaws. Like he has bad moments. He's still a young player.
He's young, so he has no flaws.
Exactly. I mean,
when he gets this contract that he's setting himself up for, like
then he'll get it.
Play this way. Whoo, he gonna get it, but right now
then the backlash will happen.
He's the baby.
No,
so we all love him.
I mentioned the other night, and I even tried to couch it to not get screamed at about how I thought Jalen had a really rough defensive game or maybe even a half, whatever it was. I thought he had some really bad defensive moments in a game recently. And it was pretty clear on tape, like he was messing up in a way the young guys do. It's fine. And even I said that, like, oh my God, people are freaking out. I'm like, guys, I'm not saying he's terrible. Like, it's just he made some mistakes. But anyway, you saw this coming. A lot of people did. Like, Hawks fans are really excited, and they should be. And I agree with what you said earlier. It's more of a big picture takeaway than a this season first 12 games takeaway as far as like impact on winning. But you could certainly argue, as you already did, that Jalen kind of breaking out organizationally is the most important thing that's happened so far. And it'd be a pretty easy case to make, I feel like.
Yeah. And I mean, what it does is it clears some things because it turns Jalen from like a possible trade piece to maybe improve the roster somehow, like how AJ currently is right now, to this is a guy we got to keep and build around. I mean, I don't know.
He's not being traded, I don't think.
Brad, Jalen went from, all right, he starts depending on the matchup to Quinn, like, honestly, probably feels like he got playing 40 minutes a night, like just based on what the Hawks are lacking when he's off the floor, because they're lacking defensively on the glass when he's not in the game. And then offensively, the lack of passing is so apparent. Like teams, especially if Trey's on the floor without Jalen or Bogey, they just blitz Trey and get the ball out of his hands. And like, they're like, we don't care what happens after that. And like, you don't trust Bay to make the right play. You don't trust Hunter to do it. Capella, like it's just slow with Capella. Like it's not the speed at which you would like it to be in a Okongwu. Okongwu's fine, like in terms of like processing. Like, he'll get the ball out. He's had some turnover bug. Like the team in the general just had. What's happened is after their good start, they're just coughing the ball up too much. Like they're just giving away possessions that they shouldn't. Like it's not out of pressure. It's just out of like making reads and missing, like the pass isn't on time, or like a bounce pass gets deflected and is going the other way. Like the extra passing that the Hawks are trying to do, it's currently getting turned over, and it's just shrinking their margins more than it was to begin the season. But like, those types of things are just going to ebb and flow with this team until they get their timing down. But like getting back with Jalen, like I think, to me, more than the wins and losses for this current stretch, because it's early. I don't care what the record is right now. Like, it is too early to make any definitive proclamation about this team at the moment. What I care about is Jalen keeping up the aggression, and like, honestly, he needs to do more. Like, I think he needs to push. He needs to see how far he can go, how far he can take his usage. He needs to be above 20% usage player automatic. He might honestly need to go higher, like even against the Sixers. Like, he was getting to his spots off the dribble. No trade, no nothing. It was just him. He'd catch the ball and he was putting Tobias Harris under the rim and then fading away for like a 8-footer. And he did it a couple times. I'm like, that's good. Now do it again. Keep doing it. Like I'm like, when you watch that from him, because you saw it against the Knicks as well. It's like against Julius Randle. I'm like, yo, Jalen, keep going. Like, don't stop. Like, keep. And if it's got to be a team-wide thing, I'm like, hey, y'all got to get this man going so that he can draw the help. And now we're talking about a different element that the Hawks have not had in the Trae Young era. Somebody else to truly draw help when he's driving into the lane. So like that's really the next step. And like Jalen's just got to attack. Like, man, he dunked on Embiid so casually they forgot to call the and one. And I mean that's another thing that's happened. There's some weird things that's going on to start the season, but like he's got to keep up the aggression and keep up the pressure and force teams to have to defend him like legitimately as a star, because that's what in Spurs, that's what he's playing like. He's playing like somebody who, if this season were to end today, would get a near max contract or something like that. Because I mean, there are not. I mean, Brad, like just league wide.
No,
there are only a handful of guys who have his skill set at his size. Like, it's just period.
I was going to say
the shooting.
That's it. I mean, that's And yeah, I try to at least like put the yellow flashing light up a little bit occasionally on people. But look, what you said is perfect in that, and there's a reason why when they drafted Jalen Johnson, people like you and I on this podcast came out and like, hey, this is a great pick. It's a swing on talent. It's a bet on talent. And not every one of those works out, but a guy that falls to you at 20, who is a clear top 5 talent, maybe probably top 5 talent in that class, but certainly top 10 talent in that class, you just take him and figure it out. And it took him a little while. We could debate the Nate thing another day, but they waited too long. But look, now you see the flashes, and this is the talent level, the combination of size and fluidity and his transition game and the skill set. He's not boxy. Like you just see it with the way he moves even. And yeah, the shooting's going to come down. He's not going to shoot this well. Nobody. I mean, he has 69% shooting right now. That's not going to continue, but it doesn't have to. That's the thing. It doesn't have to continue like this. So the good thing is I can tell you being around the team a little bit, like Trey and those guys, they're not going to take the ball away from they're talking to Jalen and about Jalen like they think he's going to be a star. Does that make sense? Like they're encouraging him. Yeah, they're encouraging him to do it exactly what you just said, and I'm sure Quinn is as well. They're trying to get him to go. I heard you on ATL on 29 the other day, and I was sitting next to Kevin on Friday, and we were joking about how you basically had called for him to be more aggressive in the first half against the Sixers. He was getting downhill, and like the good thing is right now, he's also not going to get the best perimeter defender or even the second best guy a lot of the time. He's also getting the benefit, which maybe hopefully will keep pushing his confidence up. Like a lot of nights, he's going to see their fourth defender. You know what I mean? He's not getting game plan for yet. That's going to change at some point. If this continues, that's going to change, but it hasn't yet. He's not getting game plan for yet, which helps. So I don't know. I'm really excited about what he can do, and it's something that we've talked about a lot, especially this is a safe place because you and I were so high on John. They've never had a guy at the 3 or the 4 that could do these things, nope. John included. And that doesn't mean I saw you yelling the other day about how they still could use John Collins. And I agree with you.
Would be nice, Brad? You know what would be nice?
If they had both?
Yes. If they could play Jalen at the 4 and John at the 5.
It would have been nice to see. I would have.
It's like the one thing John never got when he was playing center was a power forward of Jalen's athletic build, and when they got him,
and
they just never played him at center. Yeah, with size. And when they got him, they just never played John at center, and it's like, I mean, now he's in Utah doing what he always does, which is play well. But no, and look to bring it back, as we could do it a half hour on John. That it also is going to. This is not new ground, but. Jalen is also the exact kind of power forward that Onyeka needs, because Onyeka, for all of his strengths, is not the biggest guy, and ideally you would want a 6'10" super athletic power forward. And Brad, next Onyeka. I feel like Okongwu, I wouldn't even call it struggles, but it's like
he's not playing that well. He's just not
effective. He's not as effective as he was when he was playing all his minutes next to Jalen Johnson, and quite frankly, like Quinn had to put Jalen in the starting lineup because that starting unit, like Bay just can't operate. Bay can't run DHO on offense, and then defensively
he can't move. And that's the thing.
He's also just not tall enough. Like he's just not tall enough.
Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Snap into the action this NFL or NBA season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And if you're a new customer, get $150 in bonus bets right now with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Beyond the awesome and really exciting perks of signing up right now with FanDuel, they have everything you're looking for across the sports betting space. They have point spreads and over-unders and money lines, player props, future bets, same-game parlays, live betting. It's all there for you at FanDuel, and the app is safe and secure. They cover the entire range of sports as well. They have the NFL and college football, NBA, WNBA, college basketball. They have MLB when season's happening, of course, golf and tennis and soccer and auto racing, boxing, MMA. It's all there for you at FanDuel. They also have tons of options involving the Hawks, including a big game on Tuesday against the Indiana Pacers. They have pregame lines and over-unders and player props, etc. for that. Plus, when the game starts, they have live betting as well. And now is the best possible time to join up with the folks at FanDuel. It's FanDuel.com/LockedOnNBA. Check out the official partner of the Locked On Podcast Network with an offer that you absolutely do not want to miss. That is FanDuel.com/LockedOn. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Well, and the other part, and I'm not going to set you down this road too much, but the other part is they need DeAndre Hunter to be the assertive, aggressive DeAndre Hunter that doesn't always come when he's playing with Bey. You can get by with DeAndre being the passive DeAndre that he often is with Jalen on the court. But if it's Hunter and Bey at the forward spots, they need more physicality from DeAndre Hunter. And there was a stretch early in the year when he actually played really well for like 5 games. We talked about it. I think it was offline, but we talked about it. Like he had a really good like 6-game stretch. And then that has kind of slowed in the last couple of games.
What's happened is teams adjusted, right? Like one, they just stopped letting DeAndre. Like a lot of teams were just allowing DeAndre Hunter to get to his right hand, and then get downhill, and they weren't really challenging his dribble in a way they are now. So it's just a little harder. And like this is where it goes back to like Quinn's talking about all the time. You just got to shoot the 3, right? Even if a contest. I still remember. I want to say it was against the Knicks. Quickly was on him at the top of the key, but he had space to shoot the 3-pointer. He didn't even look at the rim. And I'm like, hey, that's a shot he just has to take. And I thought, in the second half, he was starting to do some of that stuff. Like he was starting to be aggressive. And then, of course, he got the double techie, so he had to go. But it's also it's hard for him to like. How does DeAndre stay aggressive when the ball isn't going to go your way when you got Trae Young, DeJounte Murray on the floor at the same time?
No,
and it's
I think it's a thing with him where he has a hard time. This is psychoanalyzing in a way that I don't mean to, but I think when he has the ball, to your point, he's the kind of guy that when he has the ball a lot, it kind of clicks in for him. But when he's not going to have the ball a lot, you know what I mean? Like, I think that switch has never flipped with him where it's like, hey, I'm actually the 5th option on the court right now, or maybe the 4th option because Capella's the 5th option. You know what I mean? But he's not going to ever be consistently a top 2 option on this team. And I think he's got to figure out the balance. And we've seen it off and on. But
here's hold on, Brad. You call Capella the 5th option. He ain't the 5th option right now. He's getting the ball way too much.
Well, and that's another. It's actually a thing where
it is a lot of
that was on my list. Actually,
give the ball to Capella and then run DHO for
okay.
Johnson and Trae. And it's like, what is this? How is this going to work?
All right, so that's a good point. I was going to ask you this later. Let's get to it now. Offense and defense. So there's been a lot of talk about the centers. You mentioned briefly, like neither one of them are playing that. Yeah, and I think that's been lost because a lot of people are. It's been the same talking point for a year. People are done with Capella. And I get it, whatever. But part of that's that Conley was not playing that well. Number one, and the big picture that you talked about, I talked about with Glenn on a recent podcast. You guys did on ATL on 29 the other day. They are clearly building this roster, not necessarily the roster. The game plan, the scheme stuff on offense and defense away from Clint's strengths. Yeah. It's very obvious to anyone with eyes. Like defensively, he's playing further out on the court, not his strength. That's a very simplified way of putting it. You know what I mean? Offensively, you mentioned the DHOs playing more at the elbows. That's not his strength either. So I think they all know it, and they're building for the next guy, and they're building scheme habits and all that stuff. And but it is interesting to me because you're right. I mean, it is kind of like, what are you expecting? Because Clint, he's not the worst guy in the league at doing that stuff. He's not horrible at it, but you don't want him to have to make a lot of decisions with the ball.
But Brad, it's not dynamic. It's not dynamic.
No, it's not at all.
Jalen and Bogey running 2-man game. Like Jalen got Bogey a wide open 3-pointer off of nothing, off of DHO, off of literally nothing. Like he brought the ball
because those guys are really talented.
Automatic 3.
Even Okongwu is not. I think sometimes he actually gets overstated how good he is right now with the ball, but he's obviously so much more comfortable running a DHO than Clint is. It's not even close. And they know that, but at the same time, they trust Clint and they're playing Clint 24, 25 minutes a game, but they're not changing their scheme stuff. So I'm actually wondering if at some point in January or something, Quinn's going to actually maybe play some more drop with Clint once he feels like, all right, my principles are installed. Does that make sense? I think it was Zach who talked about this the other day. Maybe it was Nikias, whatever podcast that was. And I said, actually, that makes a lot of sense to me.
And we talked about that on ATL on 29 as well.
Yeah.
Brad, just to shout that podcast out.
Absolutely. But, I shouted that too. And it's just one of those things. I wonder if there's a switch at some point that's just hey, why don't we run the Clint system and the Onyeka system, which is kind of more of what it's ironic because with Nate and even last year with Quinn, it wasn't just a Nate thing. They ran the Clint system and Onyeka had to fit to, but you know what I mean? It's not really that simple, but you know what I mean? And Onyeka had to fit to that. And then this year it's flipped where Clint is running the more Onyeka system. And I think we've kind of seen that. And I don't want to do the whole, they should.
The bigger picture is that they got to be able to do both, right? They have to be able to do both and be able to. But like they've never run this. They've never run this type of offense defense scheme,
right?
And so, but they if they want any chance of getting past their if they want to push to contender status, they got to be more dynamic in offense and defense, and it can't just be we're running drop and we're running 1-5 pick and roll spread, high spread pick and roll with Capella, and that's it. Like they gotta be able to do other stuff, or it's just like they're just gonna run into a wall against a team where, hey, we're elite at killing drop coverage. Like they're gonna run against a team that was 2021 Atlanta Hawks. Like you ran drop against Trey in 2021. Exactly. It's over. It's over. You can do teams can do it now because again, this especially with the starters, they don't shoot enough threes from Trey, DeJounte, and DeAndre and Jalen. So it's like they're just going to run drop and clog the lane because they starting lineup wants to get to the rim, drive, get to the front of the rim, make layups. They don't want to just take the contested 3-pointer. So that's something they kind of have to fight. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So on that front, I'm getting pushback from people because I'm on Quinn's side of this because Quinn, and I'll usually mention it when Quinn says after a game they'll take 35 threes, and Quinn said, well, we want more than that. And when they miss them one night, you get the typical fan response, well, why are they taking so many threes? And Quinn's response almost always is like, no, we should have taken more than we actually took. And part of that's habit building, like we just talked about, but part of that is that he believes it. And look, their shot profile, to take it like more of a 1,000-foot view right now, is way better than it was the last several years. And that is why, it's kind of crazy, to be honest with you. This team is number 6 in offense right now, with Trey having the worst shooting season of his career by far. Like, you could say, you know what I mean? That's going to come up. I mean, no matter where you fall on the Trey conundrum, and I don't have to do this, we don't do that now, but there's a lot of fans that are like,
worst player in the NBA.
I don't get it. But anyway, wherever you fall on that spectrum, I think it's pretty intuitive that Trey is not going to shoot this badly for the full season. That's just my thought, considering we have 5 years of sample size. So if you assume some positive regression there, this team's already borderline elite on offense with him doing this. Every reason to believe this team's going to be awesome on offense. They already have been pretty good, really good, and they're going to probably get better.
Bogey's is only shooting 35% from 3 or something. So it's
I mean, there's team. I mean, sure. I mean, obviously you can regress some guys both ways. Jalen's going to come down, you would imagine, for one.
Yeah, but Jalen is a non-entity as a 3-point shooter. He doesn't shoot enough threes for
He's only shooting them when he's open, which is fine, which is what you do right now. That's fine. But yeah, they're only, they're taking about 35 a game. That's in the middle of the pack. They're shooting about middle of the pack in 3-point percentage. Yeah. But that includes Trey shooting 28%, Hunter's at 34%. That he's probably better than that, if nothing else. Bogey's at 35. They're not nobody's shooting.
Only DeJounte. I think only DeJounte was shooting.
He's cooled off. He's still at 39, which is probably above where you would guess for him, but that's not insane. I think he'll probably shoot mid-30s. So anyway, I think that as they go forward, we've already seen the uptick in threes. It's already happened. Quinn wants more. It would help them if some guys bombed more, i.e. Hunter.
Sadiq Bey, more importantly, more than Hunter. Sadiq just got to shoot.
Well, and the thing, it's more than Hunter because that is with all respect to Sadiq, that is the primary appeal of Sadiq Bey on this team, is that he is supposed to be the bomber. Last year he was bombing, and the results were off the charts. Not just for him, but for the team. When he was on the floor last year in the last 30 games, or whatever it was, the team was just through the roof in scoring. And that's happened a little bit this year too.
It's still this year a little bit.
Not quite the same, but he's only taking, I shouldn't say only. He's taking, looking at this now, my apologies. Yeah, he's taking 7 per 100 possessions. That's got to be 10. 11.
Yeah, he's got to be a 10 guy, and like he's got to shoot through contests, and he has this weird release where he doesn't jump on his jump shot, but
because he can't.
He's got to figure something out.
It's because he can't jump.
I mean, he say he can't jump. He be getting up for these lob dunks.
Well, it's funny. The other day,
like,
yeah,
and then he'll when he doesn't do this the slowest Euro step in the NBA history. Like when he just goes straight, he'll dunk the ball hard. Like
I can't unsee it.
Juice.
Somebody mentioned this the other day.
He has juice, but his jumper is like.
Well, so someone said it the other day to me on Twitter because I mentioned it. Someone made the Draymond backpack comparison with Sadiq's jump shot.
With a backpack.
It's the same thing. I can't unsee it now. So shouts out. I can't remember who that person was, so my apologies. But it was like, yeah, that's correct.
Honestly, it's less of back. It's more like he has weights on. Like he's got weighted, like ankles or something. Like and he can't like lift.
I shouldn't say he can't jump because you're right. It's not that he can't jump at all.
He can jump, but
he's not
his jumper's just not.
No,
happening.
It's the way his back moves. Anyway, it's a visual podcast. But anyway. All right, that is all with part 1 of myself and Tyler Jones. We'll have part 2 in your feeds right now. So if you're on YouTube, you should be able to find the podcast available for you right now. Audio-only platforms like Apple and Spotify, same thing. And please subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. Also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Hawks. Follow me there as well at BT Rowland. Follow my written work if you'd like to as well. Patreon.com/BT Rowland. Again, part 2 should be available for you right now. Thank you for listening, as always, everybody, and we'll see you all next time.